SlugOTSO, our name, with a little bit of humor perhaps, but for a very serious issue, the handling of liquids at the inlet of a plant. And what plants I'm talking about are gas plants primarily, and sometimes compressor stations, where you have multi-phase flow in your pipelines. Multi-phase flow is a common thing that we will have in a lot of gas gathering and even some transmission systems. For instance, when you're coming offshore, you have the temperature issues that can create huge amount of liquids. You can have retrograde liquids condensation occurring. So you have temperature, retrograde, all kinds of things cause liquids. And one of the better ways of handling it when you get to a facility is to put in a slug catcher. SlugOTSO is OTSO's improved slug catcher designs. This includes a number of technologies and basically a rethinking of what it takes to recover the liquids while allowing the gas to go to the plant. So here we are. Let's look at an example of the SlugOTSO system. Here we have a separator. We try to make the separator no more complex than a separator just has to be. We take advantage of things like swirling for this particular design, and we have other designs that we can apply, but we're using well-known separator technology and then handling the liquids in improved fashions. So number one, get the separation complete right away. A simple concept, but one that is rarely employed when you have liquids that have to be recovered into a slug catcher. Number two, finish the separation before you take your liquids to the storage, so that the vapor is doing what it needs to do in terms of separation. The liquids go where they need to go. Once you do that, we can then go ahead and put in properly sized headers and much smaller connections to the fingers themselves, saving money and making installation easier and quicker. We then do something that's a bit surprising perhaps to many. We put the low end close to the inlet. The high end is far away. So we fill from the bottom and we empty through the bottom. This is much as locks work for ships. The ship is lifted. They don't dump the water on top of the ship or beside the ship. They do it from the bottom up. And then when they want to lower it, the water empties through the bottom. So in the bottom, out the bottom. That's one of the principles of operation. That makes it easier for bridles to be designed. They're not having to go long distances as bridles do now. And this allows for an improved design from that standpoint. So with these improvements and a few other little tricks that we have, the SlugOTSO slug catcher system is both less expensive to install and, get this, expandable. And you can expand it by just putting in a long enough header and adding valves, block valves. You can expand it without any downtime whatsoever. And with block valves, you can also isolate things. So suppose you need an annual inspection. You can do so. Now suppose that you have a facility and 10 or 15 years in, well, it's no longer loaded. You can remove fingers without having to shut the system down at all. Because we have the headers included in our design, and the headers are out of the dynamic flow path, it becomes feasible for us to extend the headers on initial design, and for a very reasonable cost, put in block valves so that future expansion can happen. Suppose you're putting in a facility, and it might be a 200 million cubic foot a day plant, only it's going to start with 50 million cubic feet a day. And as anybody who has been in design work knows, it's awful hard to predict how quick and how far it will finally develop. Well, now we can start with, say, 50 million a day worth of storage capacity, so it might be 1,000 barrels, and then we might build that to 2,000 or 3,000 or 4,000 barrels a day as those volumes come up. And what that means is you're spending the money when you need to, not in advance. Just think about that. Not only do you get better capital control, if for some reason the field doesn't develop as thoroughly as you thought, this protects you. Now, one of the benefits of having an isolatable finger is that you can isolate it. Well, Shazam. It's easy, right? But isolatable fingers offers us the opportunity of shutting it down, bleeding it off, and running whatever inspection equipment that you need to while in service. So if you've got 10 fingers, you're only taking out of service 10% of that total volume. And lots of times you can stand that without any change in your operations. If there's a maintenance issue, does something need to be repaired? This facilitates that. Others have a hard time. They have huge connectors to your fingers, and those things have expensive valves, difficult to shut, and frankly, nobody puts them in. We do. And we can do that at your request and have the type of inspectable system that will work for you better. Now, one of the things we can do on that is we can put manways on that or other smaller sized inspection ports so that you can do visual inspections on the inside as well as whatever inspection or clean out you need. One of the benefits of utilizing the SlugOTSO system is that we have a minimum of large components. Now there are some large things. We have some large inlets to the separator and out of it, but not nearly as many as most slug catcher systems are forced to have. Because we're relying more on standard components, we can get quicker installation. That matters. In our first installation that we did, we were able to go from the go-ahead to start to being mechanically complete in just 12 weeks. I dare many people would find that even hard to believe, but yes. And so because we use so much more of ordinary type of components, we get a speed savings as well as cost savings as well. So one more advantage of the SlugOTSO system. To me, innovation is what engineering is about. To rethink products that have been around 50 or 60 years. I've seen some engineers, they'll say, what can there be new after 50 years of doing the same thing? And I look at it and I say, there has to be something new if it's been used for 50 years and it hasn't been much done.